Hi, my name is Phil and welcome back to my channel. Blue hour is my favorite time to shoot. It's a perfect opportunity to get those portfolio-worthy hero shots. But you do need to know how to prepare for that shoot and how to set up your camera perfectly. I've shot literally thousands of luxury homes here in Dubai. Stay tuned to the end and I'll be sharing some of my secrets with you. Blue hour or twilight is simply the time after sunset before it gets pitch black. But the issue with this is it only lasts between 20 to 40 minutes depending on where you are in the world and the season, so you have to work fast. But the benefits of shooting at this time are huge. If you just give it an extra hour and wait for blue hour to come, the difference between the same two shots is huge. So preparation is key. Make sure you turn up nice and early so you can scope out the best positions to plant your tripod. You will need a tripod, but the good news is you will not need to bring any lighting. The idea is to wait until about 30 minutes after sunset. The point you are waiting for is when the internal lights within the house match the ambient light from outside. Then you've only got about 30 minutes left, so now you're running. For blue hour photography, you will be shooting long exposure, so that's why you'll need to set your camera up on a good sturdy tripod. Compose your shot and then dial in the following settings. For aperture, you need to be shooting between f8 till about f13. I prefer to shoot around f11 to f13. That's because I like to get really nice light trails, sun stars, moon stars, or stars just from the lighting that's around, such as street lights, etc. And also, I like a little bit of movement in the clouds. Your ISO should just be kept nice and low. Most cameras have a native setting of 100. Some are a little lower, around 50 or 64. Just keep it at that. The reason we're keeping the ISO low is because we don't want to increase the noise on our photos. We want to keep the images nice and clean. Now you need to dial in your shutter speed. Just do this to adjust to the exposure for your shot. If you've got your aperture around f8 to f11, when you're shooting at blue hour, then your shutter speed will probably end up being between 10 and 30 seconds. Check your exposure on your histogram and just make sure you're exposing your photo correctly. You may need to adjust your exposure. Just simply do this by correcting your aperture or your shutter speed. But just make sure you don't go lower than f8 on your aperture and everything should be perfect. Now you're ready to take your first shot, but don't just press the shutter release button on your camera. That will introduce shake to your long exposure. What you need to do is put it on a 2-second self timer, or you can use a remote trigger or a shutter release cable. This will make sure that your shots are not blurry at all. Also, if you're shooting outside, when you're shooting a long exposure, you need to look out for the wind. Make sure you weigh down your tripod to keep it nice and steady so you avoid any blur. Also, for long exposures outside, you should cover your viewfinder. Most of them have inbuilt covers these days, so you just need to slide that down. That stops light coming into the back of the camera, which can cause problems and ruin your photos. When you're shooting interiors at blue hour, you're going to get problems with reflections in the glass, which will completely kill the view that you're trying to capture and ruin your shot. The secret to dealing with this is to take an extra shot with all the interior lights turned completely off. Then you'll be able to blend the two photos you've taken in Photoshop for a perfect result. Do remember though that when you go back outside that all the lights are turned back on within the house. It gives that lovely homely feel to your twilight shots. But do make sure that any floodlights or spotlights coming from the house directly towards your camera are all turned off, because if they're shining directly at your camera, you'll get horrible lens flare. A good way to improve your exterior shots as well is to drive past the house. Set it on a self timer, put the lights on your car and create some light trails. You can either wait for a car to drive by or you can just simply do this yourself. Just make sure you don't leave your camera in the middle of the road. Another tip is to take multiple exposures. Sometimes you'll blow out the interior lights trying to balance the exterior lights. You can take multiple exposures and then blend them in Photoshop to get rid of any overexposure that may have occurred. And that's it. Watch out for my Blue Hour editing tutorial, which will be coming out soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my videos. And please do check out the rest of the videos I have for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.